Hey y'all, Joe here back with J-Tech. Alright, tonight we're talking about manual transmissions and power flow. So we have a cutaway here, so it's basically just the inside of a manual of a 5-speed transmission and the main plate. So you have your input shaft right here, comes in, connects into your main shaft right here by this bulk ring, and then your main shaft runs through here and connects into your output shaft right here inside this main plate. And then that connects to your lay shaft or your counter shaft, which is this shaft right down here. And what that is, it houses all the gears so you can switch back and forth basically in between gears, first, second, third, and fourth. So right here is first gear. It's the biggest gear in there. It gives you the most amount of torque that you can get out of the gear set. So you'd have power coming in, your input from your engine or your clutch. So if we were in first gear, you'd shift into first gear. This is your shift fork and your shift rail for first and second gear. So we shift into first. So now we got power coming out of there into your input, going into your main gear, into first gear, and then coming down into this gear right here on your counter shaft and coming out of your input shaft back here. So then if we wanted to go into second gear, shift that back up. So now you got power coming in, your input coming through into your main shaft. It's actually coming through your counter shaft, and then to here, and then to your output shaft back here. So knock that back out. We'll go into third right there. So now it's coming in, it's dropping down through here, coming back out. So now we're in neutral. So it's just free spinning. So you got power that comes in, it's constant, comes through fourth gear here, it's constant going to your lay shaft or your counter shaft, which then through shifting, through your shift forks and your rails, and whatever gear you're desiring, you just basically mesh these gears up. So, and these are your bulk rings, your synchronizers. So when you're shifting, it grabs and it kind of slows that gear down a little bit, and that keeps it from grinding when it goes into gear as you're driving. And then this is your input shaft bearing right here. That would be in the front of your case where your clutch and all that is, where the bell housing is. This is your counter shaft bearing, the front counter shaft bearing. This would be your rear counter shaft bearing. And then you got your input bearing right here. You got another bearing inside this main plate where your input and your main shaft come together. And then right in here and behind this bulk ring, you got a bearing up in there where your input shaft goes in. You got your reverse down here. And if I had to guess, I can't really tell you for sure because the rest of the transmission's not here. But if I had to guess, I would say that this is a remote shifted transmission. It's not a top loader because it would be on the top right here, and it's kind of off to the side. So do y'all need to know about these things. It's pretty much just all gears, y'all. Pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. They get a little tricky sometimes trying to figure out what gear goes to what, but your larger gears are always going to be your lower gears. So first gear is always your largest gear. So that's going to be right here. You got second, third, fourth, which is direct drive, means it's a 1-to-1 gear ratio. So whatever the engine's putting out, that's what the transmission's putting out. And then you got fifth gear back here. It's usually like a 0.87 to 1. And then you got your reverse. Yeah, that's about it. I hope that helps you guys out if you're trying to fool with a manual transmission. Thanks for watching. Hey y'all, Joe back here with J-Tech. All right, now we're going to talk about clutch to go with our manual transmission. So first, what we got here is a flywheel. And then you got your clutch disc, which sits on your flywheel like so. You got your pressure plate, which sits down on top of your clutch disc and your flywheel like so. And then you got bolts that run around and it pushes this thing down. When it pushes it down, you'll see these fingers kind of go in. And you got your throwout bearing and your throwout bearing fork, which is your cantilever kind of. You got a spot in your transmission that catches this right here, and then on this particular one it'll be a hydraulic clutch, and your shaft off of your slave cylinder would push on this right here. So put this back together. Alright, so with this inside the transmission, this would ride right here, and then when you want to operate the clutch or you want to shift and you want to disengage your clutch, then this would push down on these fingers and it releases the pressure that's held onto the clutch disc. That's pretty much it. I mean, they're pretty simple. Inside of your flywheel, you have pilot bearing right here, which is, this one's a sealed needle bearing. Sometimes it's just a bushing. Sometimes it's in your flywheel. Sometimes it goes straight into the back of your crankshaft. And the disc here is just it's made out of the same material that your brakes are made out of. And it's basically the same, it's basically just a brake, really. But it's locked up all the time, and that couples your engine to your transmission. So when you actuate your clutch or you operate your clutch, it takes the pressure off of this plate right here, and it just kind of spins around and allows the transmission to free spin. So, yeah, pretty easy, straightforward clutch. This one would be, like I said, hydraulic. They can also be operated by cable or by linkage, like a mechanical linkage, just some rods and some cantilevers. Pretty simple. That's how all the older ones were. And that's pretty much it on clutches. Hope that helps you out if you're trying to figure out how a clutch works. See you next time.